After marking his first year in office last Wednesday, President Yoon Suk Yeol heads into a full week of summits. The G7 meeting and trilateral talks with Japan and the U.S. are key engagements on his calendar. Our Soo-young starts us off this morning.
President Yoon Suk Yeol will hold a trilateral meeting with his Japanese and U.S. counterparts this weekend on the sidelines of the G7 summit in Hiroshima. Yoon's office has confirmed that the president will head to Hiroshima on Friday and attend an expanded session of G7 member countries, plus 8 guest nations including South Korea. He will share South Korea's position on the key topics of food security, energy supplies amid the Ukraine war, climate change, and ways to bridge the gap between the G7 and the global South. Invited by Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida, Yoon's attendance marks a further step to improve bilateral ties, as the two neighbouring countries aim to end their trade and diplomatic disputes that worsened in 2019. During Yoon's 3-day visit, the two leaders will make an unprecedented joint visit to a memorial honouring Korean victims of the atomic bomb that devastated Hiroshima in 1945. To boost joint efforts with the U.S. to address North Korea's nuclear threat and cooperate on strategic areas, Yoon and Kishida will also meet with Joe Biden. While there won't be a joint declaration, the three-way summit will be a meaningful follow-up to their previous dialogue in Cambodia last November, according to Deputy National Security Advisor Kim Tae-ho.
Building on President Yoon's U.S. state visit to mark the 70th year of the South Korea-U.S. alliance and the resumption of shuttle diplomacy between Korea and Japan, we will further map out our role and contribution in multilateral diplomacy, such as at the G7 in Hiroshima.
Kim says Yoon is likely to hold bilateral meetings with other world leaders while he's in Hiroshima as part of his week-long streak of diplomacy that begins before he heads to the G7 meeting. This Wednesday, President Yoon will hold a bilateral meeting in Seoul with Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau upon the 60th anniversary of South Korea-Canada relations. The summit will be followed by a joint press conference and an official banquet. Another key bilateral is scheduled for Sunday. As soon as Yoon returns from Hiroshima, he will meet with German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, who also heads to Seoul after the G7 meeting. The next day, Yoon will sit down with European Council President Charles Michel and European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen to discuss how to further their 60 years of bilateral relations, focusing on digital partnership and the green transition. As Yoon begins his second year in office, Kim Tae-ho said Seoul's foreign policy will focus on maximizing South Korea's economic and security interests and pursue pragmatic diplomacy, while strengthening global solidarity on the principle of freedom. Soo-young, Arirang News.